So how can we understand some concepts based on this science of karma yoga in order to have a more better life, in order to be more wise, in order to cope more easily in our functioning? So to understand karma yoga, first we have to understand what is life and how yogis explain the meaning of life. So when you say life, we can say that is the whole happening. So now, you're watching a video, your life is me talking to you through this video, or you going to work, or you have some relationships that you have with people. So life is going to be this whole happening. It's just clouds on the sky, it's the waves on the sea. So this whole happening, this whole life, what is this meaning of the whole life, and what is yoga in this happening? So yogis have explained that life is a manifestation of a cause. So that cause today in modern physics they call the unified field. In the ancient times they would call consciousness or purusha. And that union happens because that consciousness which it can actually feel itself, it needs this whole life, it needs this mirror. So how can we understand some concepts based on this science of karma yoga in order to have a more better life, in order to be more wise, in order to cope more easily in our functioning? Either we have to do some job that we don't like. So the first thing to understand about it is that this whole happening is not happening with effort. So you see, sun is rising and there is blue sky. Is there any effort? Maybe there is clouds and then there is rain happenings and there is wind. There is waves that goes to the ocean and they just go into the shores. So this happening happens in an effortless way. It's a natural process of the manifestation of consciousness into the nature. But human mind does not see a happening as effortlessness. So let's say if you get that example of sun and then we have rain. So let's say my individual perception is I really like sun because I like to go to the beach, I like to be with fair clothes. And then when there is a rainy time, then I don't like my mind gets disturbed. So existentially, this karmic of the creation is nothing but that manifestation of consciousness into the nature which is effortless. So now, are we making our actions align to that effortless state? So this is like the first thing we should understand if you wanted to align to karma yoga. Let's get an example. For instance, I have a corporate job in which I'm like to do some calculations because I'm an engineer, but I do not like reporting. So a reality comes in front of me, but I have a certain resistance. Why do I have a certain resistance? And that comes with a very nice statement of Krishna. So Krishna mentions, because the whole teachings of Karma Yoga was explained in a battlefield, you do your actions, when he mentions to Arjuna, but you should not be attached to the result of your actions. So let's understand if you get to this, come back to the example. I like to do some certain jobs. Why? Because individually, I want to progress. I want to have a career in which I want to have more money. I have to have some status. I'm already attached to the fruits of the actions that are coming in front of me as a reality. A reality is a reality, whether alike or not, is in front of us. So why to create a attachment to an expectation? It doesn't mean that you should not have an expectation. Imagine you work for the whole month and you have, of course, the expectation to have a salary. If someone says, oh, I'm not going to pay you, it's mismatching. But the problem is when you're starting to create a gap between the creation karma and the state of the mind in which is not aligned to the happening that is happening for you. So how we are not attaching to the result. That's the first teachings of Bhagavad Gita. And the second teachings that we can understand, and this one is also very more in the wisdom path, and it also very linked to this one. Arjuna also says, Krishna also says that actions without having the sense of I, the property of I, because the creation karma is the totality of nature. So this whole life, the consciousness is manifesting the totality of nature. But if I come to the individual sense of I'm doing something, that identification means what? I became partial of the nature. And when you're talking about the yoga, we're talking about more and more extension, because that self-realization comes not from an ego identity, but when we starting to perceive the totality that we carry, all of us in us, so that we can always make this self-reflection, because a ego, of course, it always comes with attachment to the results. Because if I am identifying today as a yoga teacher, that you should listen to me, that you should put likes in your video, if you should go to my classes, so very naturally my mind is going to be in the duality, in a polarity. And that comes a very nice link with Patanjali Yoga Sutras of the path of Kriya Yoga, when he mentions the kleshas, the source of sufferings, when you have dualities. That the duality is always attached when I have the sense of property in my actions. And I would like to finish up with another statement. Now this is more from the angle of Kriya path. And he mentions also Krishna, the wise one is the one who finds inaction in the action, and who finds action in the inaction. So what that means? So we see that the cause, that unified field, that consciousness, it is stable. It's not, it does not have any disturbances. So that inaction, if you find that in your action, so let's say I'm doing an action, but I still carry that beingness in me, which is stable, which is in inaction. In the same way, so let's say if I now sitting for meditation, or if I'm waiting in a metro, in a bus, I'm inactive, but at the same time, that source, when it expresses itself in that nature, is expressive. Everything is changing. Like the planet Earth is, rotating, and then it's rotating against the sun, and the galaxy is rotating. So this whole happening is very, very active. So are we finding that same expressiveness even though we are still? So we see that the totality of things merging, and that has also a very nice implications of this whole thing we said about how can you bring it to our daily function, for instance. Like imagine I have procrastination. When I have procrastination, I can make it that swadhyaya. What am I attaching to the result? What are the things that I'm making myself to be in this confined way in which I have this duality? Because if I wanted to unite, I have to unite with totality. I should not be in that mode that I'm selecting something just from my ego satisfaction, because that bliss, that happiness we want to find, it's already there. Is that enthusiasm, it's happening in each and every moment. Can we catch or not? That's another issue. That's why karma yoga, that individual alignment in our karmas, to merge with that existential alignment. So that you can see how we are procrastinating tasks, how we are creating too much worries on things we're not doing in our way. And one advice to start to cultivate that, because let's say if you're doing some activities in which you have to use a lot of mind thought process, that can be a little bit more challenge. But let's say, for instance, if you're just doing gardening, or just something that there is no language, there is no computer involved, because all those things requires already a background for functioning. In India, we used to do a lot of like a gardening work, because there's only a plant, and a plant you don't need much thinking process. If you have to clean something, or if you have to cook, those are very good like opportunities in which you can just be there, trying to be there without any ego, without any attachment, to feel that aliveness without anything that may happen or might happen according to your expectations. So I hope this video could give you some kind of insights and how can we actually put that in our daily lives, because in the end we want to evolve, in an easy way. So how can we bring that to our daily function? First things more easy, and then things more that you use more mind, that we have more attachments, there is more risk because you perceive things differently. So yeah, I would like you to explore that. And if you have any questions, anything you'd like um, to share, please feel free to make any comments. And see you in the next videos. Namaste.